That statistic is being badly misunderstood. It does not mean 82% regained all their weight. Today, we will examine what actually happened after Mounjaro was withdrawn and what the viral headlines are leaving out. A new analysis found that 82% of selected participants regained at least 25% of the weight they had originally lost within 1 year of stopping Tirzepatide. Imagine losing 25 kilograms on Mounjaro. Your waist is smaller. Your blood pressure has improved. Food no longer controls every hour of your day. Then the treatment stops. Maybe the cost became impossible. Maybe the side effects became too much. Maybe access disappeared. Or perhaps you simply believed the difficult part was finished. But within weeks, something starts to change. Your appetite becomes louder. Portions that once felt enormous suddenly look normal again. The food noise begins to return. And eventually, the scale starts moving in the wrong direction. It does not mean everyone ended heavier than before, and it does not prove that stopping permanently destroys your metabolism. I'm Sheriff El-Gundi, and welcome to Peptide IQ, where we investigate peptide and GLP-1 claims using human clinical evidence, regulatory facts, and product quality science. Mounjaro contains Tirzepatide. In the United Kingdom, Mounjaro is licensed for both type 2 diabetes and eligible people receiving treatment for weight management. In the United States, the obesity treatment brand is called Zepbound. Because most viewers recognize the name Mounjaro, I will use it in this video, but the scientific evidence concerns the molecule Tirzepatide. I am a researcher and educator, not a medical doctor. This video is educational and is not personalized medical advice. Do not stock Tirzepatide or change your treatment schedule without speaking to your prescriber. The withdrawal trial we will examine excluded people with diabetes. If you take Mounjaro to control blood glucose, stopping treatment may require a specific medical plan and changes to other medicines. Now, let's look at the clinical trial behind the headline. SURMOUNT-4 used what researchers call a randomized withdrawal design. 783 adults entered the initial phase. Every participant received Tirzepatide for 36 weeks. The medication was increased under the trial protocol until participants reached their maximum tolerated dose of 10 or 15 milligrams. By the end of those 36 weeks, 670 participants entered the randomized phase. Half continued Tirzepatide. The other half were switched to placebo. Neither the participants nor the investigators knew who remained on active treatment. Both groups were then followed for another 52 weeks. And throughout the trial, participants continued to receive lifestyle guidance involving a reduced calorie diet and increased physical activity. There is an important limitation here. The randomized group consisted of people who had completed 36 weeks of treatment and reached a maximum tolerated dose. The results therefore tell us a great deal about what happened to established treatment users when the drug was withdrawn. They do not perfectly represent every person who begins Mounjaro in normal clinical practice. So, what happened during the first 36 weeks? During the initial 36 weeks, participants lost an average of 20.9% of their starting body weight. That is a major transformation. For someone beginning at 120 kilograms, a 20.9% reduction would equal approximately 25 kilograms. By the randomization point, the average participant in the trial weighed approximately 107 kilograms. Their waist measurements had fallen, blood pressure measures had improved, glucose regulation and several lipid markers had also improved. Then, the trial split into two completely different futures. One group kept receiving Tirzepatide. The other group stopped receiving the active medication. What happened over the following year reveals why obesity treatment cannot always be approached like a 12-week transformation challenge. From week 36 to week 88, the participants who continued Tirzepatide lost an additional 5.5% of their body weight. The participants switched to placebo moved in the opposite direction. Their body weight increased by an average of 14% from the point when the active treatment was withdrawn. But this number requires careful interpretation. They did not, on average, return completely to their original starting weight during that year. At the end of the full 88 weeks, the group that continued tirzepatide was approximately 25.3% below its original baseline weight. The withdrawal group was still approximately 9.9% below its original starting weight. So, two statements can both be true. The withdrawal group regained a substantial amount of weight, and on average, that group had not yet regained every kilogram it originally lost. Another result makes the contrast even clearer. Nearly 90% of participants who continued tirzepatide maintained at least 80% of their original weight reduction. Among those switched to placebo, only 16.6% achieved that level of maintenance. The medication was not merely producing weight loss, it was helping defend the reduced weight. Now let's decode the statistic that could dominate the thumbnail. 82% regained at least 25% of their initial weight reduction. That does not mean they regained 25% of their original body weight, and it does not mean they regained everything. Imagine someone lost 20 kilograms during treatment. Regaining 5 kilograms would mean they regained 25% of the weight they had lost. That person would still remain 15 kilograms below their original weight. The newer analysis examined 308 participants who had lost at least 10% during tirzepatide treatment and were then switched to placebo. 54 regained less than 1/4 of their initial loss. 77 regained between 1/4 and 1/2. 103 regained between 1/2 and 3/4. And 74 regained at least 3/4 of what they had lost. This wide distribution matters. Some people maintained most of their transformation. Others experienced a far larger reversal. The evidence shows that regain was common. It does not show that every human body responded in exactly the same way. The next question is why the body pushes so strongly in the other direction. Tirzepatide affects brain regions involved in appetite and food intake. It reduces calorie consumption and helps many people feel satisfied with less food. But tirzepatide does not permanently rewrite those systems. The molecule has an elimination half-life of approximately 5 to 6 days. After treatment stops, its concentration falls gradually over several weeks. As the pharmacological effect fades, appetite suppression can weaken. Hunger may become stronger, food can occupy more mental attention, and portions that were effortless during treatment may become difficult to maintain. At the same time, weight loss itself creates biological pressure to regain. A smaller body generally requires less energy than a larger body. And after weight loss, changes in several appetite-regulating hormones can persist, encouraging greater hunger and making weight maintenance harder. That does not mean the body has become defective. It means the body is responding to substantial weight reduction as a condition it may attempt to reverse. This is why describing regain as a simple failure of discipline is scientifically weak and emotionally damaging. Willpower may influence behavior, but behavior is now taking place against stronger biological pressure than it did while the treatment was active. The medication stopped. The underlying biology of weight regulation did not disappear with it. Weight was not the only result that began moving backwards. The post-hoc analysis found a clear pattern. The more weight participants regained, the greater the average reversal of several improvements achieved during treatment. Waist circumference increased, blood pressure rose, non-HDL cholesterol worsened, HbA1c increased, and markers relating to fasting insulin and insulin resistance moved in an unfavorable direction. Among participants who regained less than 1/4 of their original weight loss, average waist circumference increased by less than 1 centimeter from the withdrawal point. Among those who regained at least 3/4, it increased by nearly 15 centimeters. Systolic blood pressure increased across every regain category, with larger average increases among those who regained more. But again, the conclusion requires nuance. Participants who regained up to half of their initial loss still retained some average improvements compared with where they began the trial. So this was not an instant collapse in which every health benefit vanished as soon as the final injection wore off. It was a graded relationship. More regain was generally associated with more reversal, Better maintenance was associated with better preservation of the improvements. The scale was reflecting a deeper change occurring across metabolic health. Does this mean Mounjaro leaves you with a permanently broken metabolism? The evidence does not support that dramatic conclusion. After weight loss, total energy expenditure normally decreases because the body is smaller. There may also be adaptive reductions beyond what body size change alone predicts. And if lean tissue is lost, that can influence energy expenditure and physical capacity. But none of that proves that tirzepatide permanently damaged the metabolic system. A more accurate explanation combines several forces. The medication's appetite effect is disappearing. The smaller body needs fewer calories. Hunger-regulating biology is pushing toward regain. And the person is now trying to defend a much lower weight without the same pharmacological assistance. Calling this a metabolic crash may create clicks, but it also creates unnecessary fear and can make people believe maintenance is hopeless. Your biology may resist the lower weight. That is not the same as being permanently broken. You may have heard an even more frightening claim that after stopping Mounjaro, the weight returns almost entirely as fat, leaving the person with less muscle and worse body composition than before. That outcome is biologically possible in some circumstances, but SURMOUNT-4 did not directly prove it. The newer withdrawal analysis explicitly identified the absence of body composition data as a limitation. It measured body weight and cardiometabolic markers. It did not use DEXA or MRI to determine exactly how much regained tissue was fat, water, or skeletal muscle. So we should not transform a plausible concern into a confirmed universal fact. However, preserving muscle remains important during both weight loss and maintenance. Current clinical guidance emphasizes adequate, individualized protein intake, nutrient-dense food, and progressive resistance exercise as important parts of GLP-1 supported care. The honest answer is weight returned, but this trial cannot tell us the exact composition of every kilogram that came back. Lifestyle support remains essential, but SURMOUNT-4 shows why it should not be presented as a magical substitute for the medication's biological effect. Participants continue to receive guidance on reduced calorie eating and physical activity after withdrawal. Despite that support, substantial average regains still occurred. That does not mean diet and exercise failed. Some participants maintained most of their loss. Lifestyle behaviors support cardiovascular health, physical function, muscle preservation, and long-term weight management, even when the scale is not perfect. The lesson is that support must become more structured, not less, during the transition away from treatment. This may include regular monitoring, strength training, an individualized eating strategy, sleep and stress support, psychological care where needed, and early intervention if hunger or weight begins rising. What about tapering? SURMOUNT-4 did not test a gradual taper. Participants were switched from tirzepatide to placebo. Since SURMOUNT-4, a separate randomized trial called SURMOUNT-MAINTAIN has tested continued treatment at a lower weekly maintenance dose. That approach preserved more of the earlier weight loss than switching completely to placebo. But this was still continued medication, not a validated taper to zero. Small reduced frequency reports also exist, but they do not establish one universal stopping schedule. Do not copy an online schedule or stretch doses without your prescriber's agreement. The correct plan may differ for someone stopping because of adverse effects, pregnancy, poor response, cost, diabetes management, or another medical reason. Tapering is an important research question. It is not yet a guaranteed solution. So, does everyone need to stay on Mounjaro forever? The trial cannot answer that question for every individual. Obesity is commonly managed as a chronic, relapsing condition. For some people, continued medication may be necessary to maintain the weight reduction and health improvements they achieved. For others, treatment may stop because of side effects, medical circumstances, personal preference, inadequate benefit, access, or cost. NICE guidance states that successful treatment could be long-term, while also recognizing that people may choose or need to stop. When that happens, continued support should not disappear with the final injection. Most selected withdrawal participants regained a meaningful portion of the weight they had lost. Second, 82% did not necessarily regain everything. They regained at least 1/4 of their original loss. Third, on average, the withdrawal group remained below its original starting weight after 1 year, but its trajectory was moving upward. Fourth, greater regain was linked with greater reversal of improvements in waist size, blood pressure, cholesterol, and glucose regulation. Fifth, regain is not simply evidence of laziness or weak character. The medication's effects have faded, while biological pressure to restore weight has become stronger. And finally, the evidence does not prove that everyone must remain on the maximum dose forever. It shows that stopping requires an active maintenance plan, clinical monitoring, and realistic expectations. In the next Peptide IQ investigation, we will examine another question millions of frustrated users are asking. Why do GLP-1 medicines produce dramatic results for some people, but barely work for others? If this investigation helped you understand the science behind weight regain, press like, subscribe to Peptide IQ, and share it with someone considering stopping Mounjaro. I'm Sharif El-Jendi. Stay curious, question the marketing, and always follow the evidence.